All right. Who's live? We're live. Let me. Hey, Twitter. Zyle, I see you, darling. It's good to see you. This morning, we talk about what? We. Okay, sure. Oh, okay. Relax yourself. Relax. You're okay. You're okay. We grow daily. We grow daily. And you see, when I get asked the question, when are things going to change? Things always change because they must. They cannot stay the same because that would be breaking the law. And we cannot break law. I'm going to say it to you again. We cannot break the law. Let me share with you a phrase in the KYBALION or from the KYBALION. You see, the law looks to be invisible because you can't, gravity, you can't see it, right? You don't see it, but you run up against it. It's an invisible barrier, right? And so we grow daily, meaning we change and we grow, we expand, right? Why? Because we must. We cannot stay the same. So something happens when you try to remain the same. We can do something called circumvent, you know, delay something for a moment or two, like jet fuel and airplanes circumvent gravity. But once the jet fuel is gone, you are now at the mercy of gravity. Why am I telling you this? Because we cannot break the law. We must change. And sometimes when we hold ourselves in an unnatural place of change, we meet with, let me find the right word for it. It's quite like you keep hitting the same spot over and over and over again, like that wind up toy, and it keeps hitting the wall because it's run out of space. Well, it keeps hitting the wall. That's the law. That's the wall. You can't go beyond it. You can't break it then. So you have to change. You cannot remain as you are. And when we try to remain as we are, okay, we meet with resistance. You keep running up against something that you can't put your finger on. You keep saying, why? Again? Why am I here again? Because you're running up against the law. The law is neither friend nor foe. It simply maintains structure. It guides things. It allows for beautiful growth. It really does. So if you say, well, I don't know how to change, it doesn't matter if you know or you don't know. But change happens naturally, my friends. You don't have to force it. You don't have to delay it. Allow it. For instance, my young man this morning, you heard him clucking away here. He didn't always do that. He didn't always crow either. But nature did something to him. And he just did it naturally. You and I have the same thing. It's like learning to walk as toddlers. There is there's a stage naturally that we go through. because we cannot remain as we are. This is why if you have a baby and it develops slower than it should, you question it. You say, is something the matter? My baby is not speaking yet, and it should be by this time. Mind you, you leave room because all children grow at their own rate, but you do know by a certain time a child should be forming words. Naturally, it will do it. Now, if something strenuous comes along, or extenuating, I should say, comes along and says, no, for instance, if you don't speak to your baby, there's parts of its brain that doesn't develop, not the way it should, right? So the extenuating circumstance would be not speaking to the child. That's extenuating. That's not normal. Even if you are mute and you use sign language, you still communicate with your child and you still teach it, right? So that's why when I say that we grow daily, is because we don't have a choice in the matter. Oh, but Angela, what about free will? Free will to choose. You choose whether you're going to try and resist your growth, but you won't win. You will meet with much frustration. And when you meet with that frustration day in and day out, because you're trying to delay the inevitable of growth, some people say, why is God punishing me? God's not punishing you. Why does God not answer me when I reach up to it? Why does God not reach down to me? Because God only reaches through. Well, he's in you. He's in you. So he can only come out of you. So we grow daily. It is inevitable that we grow. How? We grow in many ways. We grow physically. We grow mentally, meaning we learn things. We grow spiritually, meaning we discover things about ourselves that we didn't know we were capable of. But either way we look at it, we grow. If you've been hurt, we have to grow past that hurt. What keeps the pain going? Your memory of it. Your memory of it keeps it alive. I know, sweetie. Right? Jeff has a picture of the chicken. Listen, we grow daily. Allow yourself. You may get a desire to read. Some of us like to read, but books allegedly are going the way of the dodo bird. Extinct. But they won't. People say, but the library is going away. No, it won't. We must have books. We will still always have books in print format. So you may get up one day and have a desire to read. And if you say, but I haven't picked up a book in years. What is the desire? To read. So if you say, I haven't picked up a book in years, so then I won't read, what other format of books are there? Find one that is most suitable to you and participate in that. Because the desire is what is causing you to grow. When you stifle your desire, you are attempting to break the law. And I'm sorry, as per the KYBALION, if you try to break the law breaks you. Why? That seems cruel, Angela. No, it's not. How are you gonna you keep running up against something that cannot be broken? It is true, it is sincere, it is solidly real, even though it is invisible. Think about what happens to you if you have a bag of corn, of kernels, and you say, I'm going to plant this corn, but I will get peas. Somebody's going to be frustrated. You will keep planting corn. You will keep reaping corn because you do not have a choice in the matter. The law says you reap what you have sown. If you want to change what you reap, you have to change what you plant. But you can't plant and expect to reap something different. That's what I mean when I say to you, you cannot break the law. So we grow daily. It is inevitable, our growth. But some of us, I know it might seem impossible because we're creatures of habit. We like to do the same thing the same way every time. And it may look like we can't change. But that's the beauty. It looks like you can't. But if you look at what you're doing and examine it, you will see exactly how to accommodate your change with the greatest of ease. The law of rhythm tells you you do it the same way every time. There's a pattern. You don't like the current pattern? You don't like argyle? You don't like plaid? Well, perhaps you will prefer the pattern of stripes, of polka dots even. Find a different pattern to implement because we must follow a pattern. You can't not follow a pattern. You have to. Even if you say, well, I don't have a pattern, that is your pattern. So you see, we grow daily. Stop fighting your growth. It is inevitable. So observe how you grow naturally and follow it. It's not going to lead you astray. So if you get up and you say you have this thing, this desire to do something, well, Neville says make it easy on yourself. See it as being completed. Go to that state of completion. And because you have gone to the state of completion, the way that thing comes about has a pattern that it follows. You don't have to figure out the pattern of how it will unfold. It naturally unfolds, and what you and I get to do is follow it, allow it to unfold, and it will show you itself. Just like corn has its own way. So every time you see it, you're like, oh, that's corn. It has a pattern of growth. Peas have a pattern of growth. Behavior has a pattern of growth. And it will always show itself so you can see what the pattern is. And when you see the pattern, you say, oh, that's what that is. We recognize the pattern. That's why when Neville says you don't have to figure out how, the pattern will unfold as it should because it has its own way of showing up so that when you see it, you go, oh, that's what's happening here. Why? Because of the pattern. But we try and we force it. How can you force it when you don't know how it's supposed to unfold? You don't know the pattern. But if you observe, you will see the pattern. That's how and why we grow daily. We don't have a choice but to grow and to change. The law of vibration is why everything is moving. Nothing stands still. It is constantly moving from where it is to where it's going. It's not time for a song, my sweet boy. Not time for a song. It's time for cuddles, though. Oh, yeah. Good boy. See, after he starts to crow, I can't stop it. He has to follow through the pattern, a rhythm that he does every day. I don't know how he knows the rhythm. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't know how he knows the rhythm and how to follow it. He just does it because that is the how. The how is not determined by us, but the observation is. We observe and we allow. So, how are you growing? Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? The silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. Don't ask me the true meaning of it because I don't know. It sounds like gibberish, but it isn't. It has a meaning. Ah, lovely. Yes. Mm, I like that. I like that, Marquise. I'll read it out loud once we go through the chat and such. So today, where is it that you are growing? Where is it? When people say follow the process, trust in the process. That's what they mean. Allow the natural rhythm of the thing to show itself. And this is what brings peace, you understand? The rhythm, the pattern, because you know the pattern is always going to be fulfilled. That's where the peace comes from. The rhythm will always be fulfilled. The pattern is always fulfilled. It cannot not be. By way of law, it has to. So because you know the pattern has to be fulfilled, you trust it. Even though you don't see it yet in its fullness, you know that a pattern always shows itself. And so, because the pattern always shows itself, that's why you can have faith. That's why you can trust. Because you say, you know what? It always follows. It always will show itself because that is the law. And because it always shows itself, I can relax and I can observe so that I know what action to take. That is where the peace comes in. That is where the trusting of the process comes in. Because I will go back to the gardening analogy. Even if you don't remember what you planted and things start to grow, when you see the pattern, if I say the word four-leaf clover, you know what a clover looks like because we've always seen it from St. Patrick's Day with it has the four leaves, sometimes three. But if I say clover, you know what it looks like. Why? Because it has a pattern in the way it presents itself. So you may not have planted the clover, but when you see the clover, you know it has been planted because everything follows its pattern. So this is why when Neville says to assume the state of the wish fulfilled, he's telling you assume the pattern of the fulfillment. But what does that look like? When you are fulfilled, what are you? What's the pattern of fulfillment? Ease, satisfaction, peace of mind, happiness, a thrill of victory. That's the pattern of fulfillment. Because if you were not fulfilled, what would that pattern feel like? Dissatisfaction, agitation, fretting. When is it going to happen? Is it ever going to? Why me? See, that pattern? It can only present itself in one way. So when it presents itself, you know exactly what you're dealing with. You know what dissatisfaction feels like, but you also know. Listen, Rolling Stones could not have said, I can't get no satisfaction. They could never have sang that song if they did not know what satisfaction had already felt like to say that they couldn't get it. So you see, everything has its pattern and its rhythm. And this is why we grow daily. Growth has its pattern, it can't stop. Whether you grow in this where we are or you grow elsewhere, you still grow and you still change. This is why they tell you change is inevitable because it cannot break the law. When you watch people try to break the law, well, I've got to have it this way, this way, this way. That thing has its own way of showing itself. So if you say, all right, this is the type of change I want to go from this habit to a different one. Well, how are you going to bring it about? Well, what is the pattern of a habit? Doing, thinking, or saying the same thing the same way every time is the pattern of a habit. That's how you know what a habit is. So we grow daily, my beautiful friends. But sometimes when I tell you, when the KYBALION says, you can try to break the law, but the law won't be broken, you will. Think about it. The frustration and the agitation of trying to force something and it's just not happening. Not because you are unworthy of the thing, but because you're trying to break the law. Find the pattern of the thing you want to become. The pattern of the thing you want to become. And the pattern is always mental for becoming, because we're always becoming. That's why we grow daily. But you see, we are built upon a pattern also. Watch what I say to you. I am woman. Hear me roar. Rawr. See? So everything that's woman, that pattern unfolds for woman. Same for pattern of dog. Anything that is in the canine class, wolf, domesticated dog, wild African dog, as long as it is canine, it must present itself in pattern of canine. If it is feline, cat, hyena is feline. The hyena is a feline. Most of us don't even know that, right? So all felines present in a particular way. That's how you know they're feline. The pattern, because we are constantly growing and we change, but we don't change randomly. This is why when psychologists and psychiatrists, which is the study of the mind, the mental faculties, because there is only mind, if you neglect a child, neglect has a pattern, a way of showing itself. That's how you know they've been neglected. Well, how would they know? Because they have observed the characteristics. You just watch the behavior. And you ask, well, what could bring about this behavior? And you watch the family more. And then you begin to see what's happening to the child. And then you can name the pattern that it presents with. That's all we do. We observe a pattern. It's the law of rhythm. So that's why nothing is random. Nothing is random. Now, I've always loved forensics. I've always loved the study of that and the criminal mind. Why would you do a thing the way you do? This is why you get copycats, right? But if you look at the copycat and you compare and contrast between the original and the copycat, you will see the rhythms of both of them, and thereby you will know who the authentic one is and who the copycat is. You see, we only ever observe patterns. And when we observe the pattern, now we know what we're doing. We know what we are doing. But the how, which is how the pattern unfolds, it unfolds by way of law. It has its way. So today, whatever that change is you are seeking, remember, we don't have to seek it, right? We observe. It's not lost. It's obvious. It's before you every day. So observe the self. What pattern are you currently doing? When you recognize the pattern that you are doing, now you can say, well, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm doing. Polarity. And then you say, well, what pattern would I prefer? And what does that pattern do? How can I recognize it? It has these actions, which means you have to change your mind. Observe first, because that's how you'll know. Because if you and I already know that change is inevitable and that we grow daily, the only thing for us to do is to observe how we grow. And when you see how you are growing, you can now facilitate your inevitable change. But if you don't pay attention to how you're growing, how are you going to know where you want to change to? So, my beautiful friends, did I now, Asanya? I'll read it to you guys in a minute. But this is, we grow daily. Whether we grow here or we grow there, where's here and where's there? Right now, we are aware of being here right now. We can't stop being aware. You can only stop being aware of where you are, but you can't stop being aware that you're aware. Let me say it another way. I may cease, or inevitably I will cease to be Angela. Angela is my form and my name, but I cannot cease to be. So whether I am in this form or another, I am. But even I am, wherever I am, that is the pattern. Wherever I am has a pattern, and I have to follow that pattern. That is what facilitates our change, right? So, my beautiful friends, let's take a quick moment and welcome everyone into the space. Double A, Asanya, she says I took her back to her primary school days in Barbados. Listen, those are fond memories growing up. Jeff, I see you. Sugar Visions, I see you. And for the others who've not made themselves known in the chat on either Facebook or YouTube, I know you're there. Twitter, who's here? I know Zyle was here already. This person, I within brand. Ah, is that? I want to say, is that Miss Deborah? I don't know, but the I within. I think it is. On Twitter. Who do we have on Fanbase this morning? Hello, James, darling. Hey, Rib. Hey, Coach. Commander. Thick. Ali. Stephanie Darling. Matthias. Zeesty. Summer Rose. Oracle Treehouse. Joaquin. Hooker Brother. Flo Smiles. Marquise. I see you all. Welcome and thank you for being here on such a lovely day. A lovely Monday. I can't see my thingy. YouTube, can you guys still hear me? Let me know because I don't see my thingy moving, but it says I am live.
I can still hear you on YouTube.
Okay, good. I'm pleased. Excellent. So today, my beautiful friends, remember that we grow daily. And the way we grow is determined by the current pattern that we occupy. So, what does that even mean and what does it look like? What is your current state of mind? Your particular habit? That's how you're growing. Right? And this is why it is imperative that you don't judge, because then you can't judge the pattern. The pattern is what it is. So instead of judging the pattern, what do? We end up judging ourselves. And judgment has a pattern. Judgment has a pattern. So we don't judge. You just observe the pattern that is ever there in your face. And when you observe the pattern, right? When you observe it, it tells you what you're doing. Are you mad at me? Don't be mad at Mama. It's okay. Just observe. Observe and allow things to unfold. And when they unfold, now you can see what you're doing. Right? So when I say don't judge, I'm not telling you not to judge because it's the end thing to do. I'm telling you don't judge because you miss the pattern if you judge. Why complain about the pattern? The pattern is simply what it is. Oh my God, I can't handle these roses. Why are there so many ants? Ants love roses. That's part of their pattern. Don't ask me why they do. They just do. If you observe rose bushes, they usually have ants. They do. Right? Roses have a particular smell. They just do. So why hate the smell of the rose? Plant a different flower. If you want to get rid of the smell of roses. Is that so? Yes, Marquise. Seek first the pattern of heaven, of course. That's what, yes, that's exactly what it is. Right. Well, Ali, I love you. Oh, so does a little bit. Well, let me get into it. You see, Ali says the brilliance. I broke a tooth this weekend. It definitely means something. Yeah, it means you ate something. Cause and effect.
LOL. I was actually flossing.
Right? See? Oh, exactly my point. It didn't just happen randomly. Cause and effect. Marquise, he says, blood spatter has a pattern. Listen, this is why in forensics, when they look at the spatter, they can tell you. How do they know? Because they in the lab, what do? They test it. They take a whatever tool it is and bring about different spray patterns. So when they come across one that is similar to the one that they did in the lab, they can tell you what was used to bring it about. We only ever observe the pattern. How the pattern is formed, cause and effect. You see, it's just everything is always moving. So don't judge the movement. Don't judge anything, but ask, do I like the way this is moving? Do I like the direction in which I am moving? Yes or no? It's a simple question. So if you don't like the direction you're moving in, what would you prefer? This is where your power is. You are not helpless. Helplessness has a pattern, right? Helplessness has a pattern. It has a feeling. The pattern. Do you want to be helpless? No, because you really aren't. So we always start with the observation of self. What are you doing? And when you see what you're doing, do you want to continue doing it? No. What do you want to do instead? I don't know. Well, you don't know what you want to do? Find the pattern that best matches. What's the pattern of success? Satisfaction with yourself, not comparison, because that will rob you of any kind of joy there is. You don't compare your success to someone else's because you don't know what their pattern is. And their pattern has a way of unfolding. So does yours. That's why you decide what success you want so it can unfold to suit. That's why you don't compare. And here's the thing, for the pattern to fully emerge, you must persist in doing the pattern so that you can see it in its fulfillment, in its fullness. But if you stop partway through, that's like the rose. If it stops blooming partway through, sure, it's a rose, but you don't get the fullness of it. And we all know the fullness of the rose, don't we? Not just the color and the softness of the petals. Now is not the time for singing, right? And oh, the smell of the rose, the feel of the petals. Hmm? Oh, yes. And you put them together in a bouquet. My, how glorious. So you see, allow the pattern to emerge and you will know what behavior to do. People always ask, well, how am I supposed to know what action to take? Well, that depends on the pattern. If you are faithful to the pattern, you cannot help but do the corresponding action to match it. You don't have to try and figure it out. If the pattern is conversation, well, where are you having that conversation? In an auditorium? Well, then chances are you need a microphone unless you're in the cathedral, and you don't because it is built to carry and resonate sound most beautifully. Is it a telephone conversation? Well, then if it's a telephone conversation, you're going to need a telephone one end and a telephone on the other. Is it a radio conversation? Well, then you'll have to tune into the station so you can hear what the announcer is saying. So you see, the action to be done is determined by the current pattern. That's how you'll know what to do. The pattern is that cause, and the action you do is the effect. So we don't have to force at any given time. Hey, I see you. Thank you. But I trust that that makes sense to you today, because I know sometimes it can be challenging. How do you think they know the cube with the four corners, the square, the box? It has a pattern. Icosahedron has a pattern. Icosahedron is water. It's the shape. It's that, I want to say diamond almost, but. And then you have the tetrahedron. Tetra is four. It has a pattern. I'm showing you here, day in and day out, we have a pattern. Your job is to observe your pattern. Observe it and decide, does that work for me? This is why when you get things like statistics, right? What are statistics showing you? The pattern of how things unfold. This is what it does. It's counting. It's showing you a pattern. That's what statistics are showing you. A pattern of behavior. So, in order to minimize, choose the appropriate pattern. What do you want? And that's what Neville Goddard calls a state. And that's why he tells you all your job is to do is to get into the state. How do we get into the state? By first recognizing what state we're currently in, so we know what state we want to go to. And when you know that thing there by observation, what's the state you want to get into? Well, what do you want to experience? Because it has a pattern. And when you recognize, oh, success looks like this for me. Success means I'm doing, how does Earl Nightingale explain it? Uh, the achievement of a worthy ideal. You said, I'm going to get up every day and do this. If you get up every day and you do it, then you are a success. Because why? You said, I'm going to do this every day, and you get up and do it every day. You are successful in what it is you said you are. So success has a pattern. Wealth has a pattern. So if you get into the state of that pattern, the pattern will unfold. And the pattern has to unfold the longer you are in it. But if you are just in it for 30 seconds, how are you going to see it? When you immerse yourself in the pattern, you do the behavior of that pattern. And the longer you do the behavior of the pattern, now you see the pattern unfold in its fullness. So to get into the state, identify the pattern you would like to see in your life. All you got to do is observe what wealth looks like. And there's usually a sensation bodily that goes along with that. It feels peaceful though, because you don't have to fret and worry about things, about basic things, food, shelter, clothing. You don't have to worry about those things. So if you're not worrying about those things, where would you be? Where would your focus be on? So now, if you're not worried, you've got peace of mind. So the pattern will contain peace of mind in it. So every day that you remain in that pattern, the more your peace of mind develops. Because peace of mind is inevitable for the pattern you have chosen. So you don't have to seek peace of mind, seek the pattern that contains peace of mind. I trust that this makes a little bit of more sense today. I trust that it does. So that you can remember, we grow daily. You can't stop it. can't stop your growth. So when you notice that you're growing, notice how. Here's another example. If you're part of the natural hair community, you know what I'm talking about. 4C, 4B, 4A. What's your hair texture? You see, here's the thing. 4C has a pattern, the tight Z coil, right? And that usually is accompanied by what? Low porosity, meaning it doesn't like water very much. It doesn't like moisture very much. So, what is the pattern of low porosity hair? It likes heat. Why? Because you stretch or you open up the shaft, and then you put moisture in, it stays in the shaft, thereby keeping the hair nice and supple and it doesn't break. So your hair even has a pattern. Is it wavy? Is it bone straight? And depending on if it's bone straight or not, what can you do to it? And how do we know what to do? Observation. You observe how it responds. If it doesn't like water, how can you get it to like water? What things like water? This is why one needs to know the nature of a thing. So when you know the nature of a thing, oil repels water. Unless you have something that will allow water to bind to oil. So now you have to know the nature of a binding agent. So you see, everything has its pattern. Right down from your hair, right, to your skin. It has a pattern. And we observe the pattern. And then we act according to that pattern. Like, for instance, rayon. It's a kind of material, polyester. Rayon does really good with heat. Because when you iron it, oh, Lord, you can get a crease in there real nice. And it's lightweight. But then you have gabardine. Gabardine, Sonia would know what I'm talking about, because we grew up with school uniforms and pleats. Gabardine holds a pleat. Especially like when you don't have to iron it very much. It holds that pleat once you've put it in there. A pattern. Everything has a pattern. So do you. Observe how that thing is and how it is unfolding in your life. So if you have a pattern of complaining, what must you do? You have to follow the pattern. So that means you've got to complain. So how do you get rid of complaining? Choose a pattern that does not have complaining in it. What does that mean? Oh, acceptance? Appreciation? Yes. So practice the new pattern of appreciation. Find something to appreciate day in and day out, because the longer you persist, you will see your pattern of appreciation unfold. I hope it makes sense today. That we grow daily. Simply observe how it is you're growing and then decide, do I like this growth or no? I was at the grocery store yesterday and I saw this young lady in leggings, and I knew the moment I saw her, I knew she was into bodybuilding. Because ain't nobody got thighs like that by accident. Okay? Ain't nobody shaped like that by accident. No. I see the pattern of exercise. She does not skip leg day. Okay? So I knew the pattern I was looking at when I saw her. I was like, oh, you working on your fitness. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It is simple observation. not judgment, observation, and choose from there, because that's where your power is. What pattern do I want to emulate? And go from there. Even, listen, I grew up with a seamstress. What does a seamstress have? Patterns. When she says to me, "What do you want your dress to look like?" She will lay out a whole bunch of patterns before me, and I choose it. And if she stops sewing and cutting part way through, my pattern will never materialize, even though it should. So what causes it to materialize? Persistence. She has to cut it out and sew it. Pin it, base it. She's got to put darts in there, put a hem, until such time that I go for my final fitting. And then I can see what used to be the paper pattern. I see it now in the 3D because I'm wearing it. But without persistence, you cannot fulfill the pattern. So you don't give up on your pattern. You don't just cut it out and pin it and go, well, that's it. How you going to put it on? Those pins are going to stick you. Again, I hope it makes sense to you today. Let me get the bowl, because I don't want to keep you long. Let me get the bowl. Right, itty bitty? Let's get the bowl. Oh my God. YouTube, you guys can hear the bowl, right? I know that YouTube can hear the bowl, but you guys can't. I don't know why that's happening. This is very interesting indeed. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, it's on YouTube, but it's not here for you guys. Well, in that case then.
I am the bowl.
Right? Let's see if I can do this. Now, I don't know if Twitter will be able to hear. No, because if I close it, well, this is what we'll do. Down. Initiated. Hmm. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Much love to you, YouTube. Oh, sorry, Toad. I'm not sure why it did what it did today. But double A is Rib, Robin, Asanya, Jeff, Sugar Visions, and for the others who've not made themselves known on either Facebook or YouTube, you know I love you. Um, Flo Smile says, 2 inches of snow will not stop me from taking my walk today because it's a pattern in my life now. See? Yes. Ah. Oh, really? Is that what it means, Ali? See, Ali says that suppressed emotional energy needing to come out is the meaning of a broken tooth. I did not know that.
I just looked it up and I almost fell off my chair because it makes so much sense. So much sense. So, yeah, that's what it said when I looked it up.
Wow.
Yep. All this work, see? It's got to go somewhere.
Exactly. It is. Flo Smiles, you were today's old today when you found out that hyenas are feline, but of course, hyenas are feline. Who is their number one rival? Lions. They don't, and the funny thing is they don't look feline, do they? But they are. Marquise, you're awesome. Hey, Commander. You know what? It is so good to see all of you here today. It really is. You're welcome, Thick. Um, oh, snap. Look at what Asanya just reminded me of. She says, we were able to identify the school each individual attended with the uniforms. Because if you wore a particular uniform, you went to a particular school. So if you see that uniform, that pattern, you know where they went. You know where they went to. And Asanya, if I say Comomere, if I say foundation, shoot, if I say Harrison's or Queens College, you know what I'm talking about. But if I say St. Ursuline Convent, you would also know. You see, because the minute you say them, you see with St. Leonard's, oh shoot, Springer, Asanya, Springer. These are all schools in Barbados, y'all. And so as soon as I was talking about schools, I saw the uniform for Springer in my mind, so I had to say it. But yes, and also for those school uniforms, you could always tell who the juniors were versus the seniors because the seniors, their uniforms were different. Boys, as seniors, wore long pants, right? Girls, as seniors, would wear the skirt and the blouse, whereas junior girls would wear the full unit. The blouse would be on the inside and a coverall on the outside. But a senior wore the same colors but skirt and blouse. So you always differentiate between things based upon their pattern, the way they look.
But you know what, Angela, you have a pattern or an order of operations which helped you out today when the bowl didn't play for us. You just said, okay, what's the next step in the pattern?
Of course. Of course. Always within the nature. I always play a sound. That's the nature. So I think I lost Twitter because they're on that device. I see you. You're perched nice and pretty, Mr. Glow in the Dark. Yes. But yes, everything has that pattern. So do you. And that's the encouragement today. We can change. patterns, because there's, when Neville says, "In my father's house there are many mansions," he's talking about patterns. So anyway, let's not beat that dead horse. Miss Deborah, hey, it's good to see you. But I trust it makes a little bit more sense that when you recognize your pattern, you have the ability to change it. You really do, by adopting a different one, because there's more than one pattern to choose from, right? More than one. Okras, linseed, all have that pattern. Chicken feet all have the oxtail. Uh, Asanya, we talking coheels now. Lord have mercy, don't ask questions. I'm just. They all have the pattern of whatever you put them in becomes gelatinous. It becomes like jelly. That's their pattern. You pick the pattern depending on what kind of jelly you want. This is why in traditional Chinese medicine, if you do, sorry, itty bitty, if you do chicken feet, collagen is really good for the skin if you do chicken feet. Flax seeds, same thing. That water is really, because it's so thick, right? It has that same gelatinous texture. It's good for skin, internally and externally. Okras, same thing. They have that slippery, which is great for bowels. So it just depends. How, where, what do you want to accomplish with a particular pattern? Right? You want it internal? What do you want? Okras for the inside? What is it? Just choose the pattern. Right? Patterns. We have them. And they're neither friend nor foe. Right? Anywho, YouTube and Facebook, I will see you all tonight. What do we? Of course, we're reading the pruning shears of revision. How can we not? But before we go, let me say this. The pruning shears of revision. When you revise, you're changing to something different. You're changing to a new pattern. Revision. You're wanting it to unfold in a different way. I'm gonna tack this on here. When I tell you that you can't break the law because it is unbreakable, you may circumvent, and I gave you the example of circumventing the law. A kite requires the air to course and sit upon so it flies, but when the wind stops holding it up, it comes down. Gravity. You can circumvent. Jet fuel, you fly the plane, you can circumvent gravity. But when the jet fuel is gone, the plane has to land. It can't break the law. Right? So when we revise, we are revising within the parameter of law always. Right? Certain things follow law. Not certain things, all things. And in order to, I want to say resistance, if you find, because if you hear my man tell it, resistance is good if you do electricity. So in what context are we talking about resistance? Right? So if you say, I want to make this change and nothing happens, I keep doing this and nothing happens, you are coming up against the law. You're hitting it. So what can you do when you come up against the law? Well, stop, first of all. Stop hitting your head against it. What are you doing? Right? So when you see what you're doing, I keep hitting the same thing. I keep doing the same thing the same way every time. It's showing you something about yourself. It's showing you that you're trying to do something that the law doesn't permit. You can't break the law, is what I'm trying to tell you. So if you say, I keep climbing up the tree and I just want to stay, you have to come down. You just have to. On the trampoline, you have, every time you bounce up, you got to come down so you can bounce up again. We can't break the law. You can't. So observe what you are doing and then look at it and say, well, okay, I need to do this particular thing. So what's a better fitting pattern that goes with it? Period. That's it. Instead of trying to break the law. I love the fact that it's unbreakable. I do. I do. Because it makes life simple. Right? Anywho, that's all I wanted to tell you. Tonight, we're going to read the Pruning Shears of Revision. That's what we're reading tonight in that lecture. I've read it many times. It's on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to read it again. Simply because faith comes by hearing. And then you have to exercise what you've just heard, apply what you've heard, because that is the natural state of things. That is the pattern of growth. Learn, apply, learn, apply, learn, apply, grow. It's the pattern. Much love to you, YouTube and Facebook. I'll see you tonight, 10:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have not yet pre-ordered your oracle cards, your hermetic oracle cards, the link is in there for my Patreon. Pop over there and pre-order. All right, y'alls.